Some additional comments regarding modeling chaos, I think, are in order. And in particular, we're going to discuss something known as punctuated equilibrium. This term actually applies to evolutionary science and relates to the fact that in looking back over changes in life forms, etc., there are long periods of status quo where there's very little change seen moving from one species or subspecies to another, and then all of a sudden something very new and different is discovered that begins to change theories and certain applications of the overall evolutionary theory. And this has been adapted into political science and management science as well. And essentially, organizations and societies tend to move along with status quo. You know, if we're going to talk about this in terms of public administration, it could be the incremental policy process or the incremental budgetary process. But then certain things happen that are unexpected and begin to change perspectives. And again, Powell discusses this in terms of modeling chaos. And I would like to suggest, just as food for thought, that the election of 2016, in particular the presidential election, is evidence of some punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated equilibrium into the so-called deep state, whether it be on the right or the left. And we have seen behaviors that are unlike, I would suggest, any other time in our history relative to policy implementation, because there's tremendous resistance. And the resistance to this change is taken on personal levels, personal attacks. We see it every day. In debates, it seems the discussions are more and more focused on who had the most affairs or who harassed who. Issues of personal character are all of a sudden very important, while I would like to suggest that it's highly unlikely the individual characters of our elected officials are any different today than what they have been in the past. But I do believe this notion of punctuated equilibrium and the tendency, particularly of the left wing, to resist has turned things into a very partisan divide unlike any we've ever seen before. And this also exists internally within the Republican Party. So I would encourage you to research this whole notion of punctuated equilibrium, and you can incorporate that into your ensuing papers as appropriate. And I've also posted some videos in the classroom that sort of speak to this notion of partisan divide and individual attacks. It greatly affects the policy making process. It hinders it, whether you're to the left or the right. This personalization of agendas, this reaction to punctuated equilibrium without any real alternative strategy, alternative fallback, has put us in a very, well, I'll just say interesting state of affairs and leave it at that. Take care. Bye-bye.